Will is here to like slow down the sound, slow down the music, etc. Make sure that we're all good, and instead we just kind of gun out. So good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Matt Kim and a special guest today with us, Brenden Dilley.
What's up, Matt? I'm very excited to be here, dude. Appreciate you having me in studio.
And I swear the music eventually fades away. There you go. Brenden Dilley. If you don't know the Dilley meme team, it is phenomenal. Your show is so much fun.
Thank you.
I watched the full episode today on Rumble, and you are pretty much on every platform now.
Yeah.
Because it is very difficult for the type of content that you do to stay in one spot.
Yeah, it's been really difficult, man. I was actually across 3 other platforms. They took me out. Twitch deleted me in November. I had never had a problem with Twitch, and they abruptly, I got an email and said, your content doesn't meet our, what was it, community guidelines?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's weird. I've been there for 3 years, never had a problem. And then Facebook took me out, which I actually was shocked that I had made it that long. And they didn't get me for community guidelines. They got me for copyright for memes.
Really?
Yeah. Copyrighted memes and repeated warnings. And the challenge with them, too, is that the copyright that they were referencing, a lot of it was erroneous. Like, we would have original content that was being sung by a musician from my show with original beats, everything, and they still would hit you with copyright, and you'd appeal, they declined.
Of course.
So they were just looking for a reason, but they got me about a year ago. And then YouTube is still problematic. I have to delete every episode as soon as I'm done broadcasting live, because without fail, if I leave it up, it will get, I'll get a warning or whatever, strike, well, not a copyright, but they call it, a YouTube strike.
Yeah.
And then you can't upload, and it's ridiculous. It's whack-a-mole.
So I've had strikes on YouTube, and when you get your strike, they give you the opportunity to take a test, or a training, right? They say if you take this training or take this learning, then we will remove your strike.
I didn't get that option.
Well, I got the option. I click it, and it takes you nowhere.
Yeah, I didn't get an option. I don't even know what you're talking. I'm like, wait, I've heard of it. I've never known someone who actually got that option, though. Yeah, it doesn't give me that.
As soon as I open up my YouTube studio, there's a pop-up, and it says, it's been there for 6 months. I get the pop-up every single day, and it says, take this test or take this training, and we'll remove your strike. And every once in a while, I'll be like, maybe finally it works.
Right.
And I'll click it, because I'm so curious to see what's inside of this training.
Right.
Like, what is inside a YouTube re-education camp? Right? I need to know. If someone's out there and has access to this re-education camp, please send it, because I would love to see it.
Right.
It goes nowhere. It just takes me in a circle. It takes me to another link, which goes to nowhere, which brings me back to the original link.
Right.
Yeah.
Are these supposed to be on? I can't hear anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's no audio coming out of it. I just was like, I'm like, dude, it's so muffled because I've got earplugs in. I was going to ask you.
You know what?
Oh, that would help. I didn't even look, dude. I was like,
no, it's not on you. Peter, who comes in here, he brings his own headphones. So he unplugs it. And thanks, Peter. He didn't unplug it.
Gotcha.
He didn't plug it back in. So welcome to the pod, Brenden Dilley. Again, you're on YouTube, on Rumble. You have your own site. You do your own hosting as well. You are basically a one-man show with an army of people that help you.
Yeah.
How did that even happen? Because I understand the one-man show. How did you build your own army?
So if we go back to 2019, we went from the corner of my bedroom broadcasting on a cell phone, and we brought in Wirecast software. And my producer actually is a former ESPN producer.
Oh, wow.
She was with Disney for 30 years.
Okay.
So we're talking like live, and she was in the TV truck doing college football. That was her gig, okay? So I was dealing with somebody at the top of the food chain. She had done, I think, 4 Olympics, and she moonlighted as a producer with me because she loved the show. She loved what I was about. And so she trained me in production on Wirecast. And once I was able to get to Wirecast and learn that software while hosting myself, and that's what I do now. I produce and host at the same time. It opened up a whole different world, right? And I had always had a close relationship with a lot of the anon memers on the internet, just in general. And it started out really early. I used to play a lot of soul memes on the show. Dre Fanzer, and a lot of other people that, Magical Trevor, a lot of Phantom Shadow. And so there was a lot of these memers that were just completely irreverent, and they were kind of like me with the humor and stuff. And I started playing them on the show, and they weren't necessarily a part of the show. We didn't have a community yet. I would just grab their clips, and they always got a kick out of it because they were like, oh, I got featured on this show. And no one else was doing memes on their show yet. This is early 2019. So then after January 6th, and right before everybody gets nuked off the internet, I created this meme room, and I told my good friend Miguelifornia, who was still on Twitter at the time. I got nuked 5 months before that, and they completely took me out. So I got nuked in August of 2020 before the election. But I gave him a link, and I said, you tell any memer that gets deleted, if they still want to create and have a place to have their stuff featured, come in this room. Initially, it was just sort of like, it was just a bug out location because I could see what was coming. And you have all these brilliant people who are going to have nowhere to post it. And so that's what happened. And initially, the room was 45 people. It was a lot bigger. I didn't know a lot of them on a personal level. And it was just sanctuary where I was like, look, I'm not going to be able to give you your followers back, but if you make content and you want me to play it on my show, I've got 30,000 people that'll watch it every day, and they just thought it was great. So we started the meme room, and in 2021, once Joe Biden is sworn in, I went on the next day with my audience, and I'm like, I said it's like that scene out of Taken, like this is gonna suck, and I'm not gonna blow smoke. You're stuck with this dude until 2025. I had a very good contact with the Trump family at that time, who told me what essentially what he's running again, 2024, and that they were already having a power meeting about that the weekend after he left the White House. And so I went on my broadcast and I just told everybody, this is going to suck, but we're going to get through it together, and we're going to hold down the fort. And so what was interesting was in all of 21, we spent that entire year just all culture driven, and then also cultivating the friendships in the meme room. And some people left, and they didn't fit with what we were doing, and that was really what 21 and 22 was about. Was just kind of making sure we're all pulling in the same direction, we're all understanding, and I wanted a higher level of not just content, because content you can get really great content. I wanted good people that I could trust, and I could say, I know who these people are. I know what they're going to represent. They're going to represent me out in the public well too. And it took time, but we kept doing that, and now we've got a fantastic team. We've had a great team. We've added 2 people this year. We don't really add people very often anymore. When we do, we typically go out and recruit. Like, we know who we're targeting. Cause I get a lot of requests. They're like, I want to join the team. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way, bro. Like, tryouts are closed. And all of them really, that's how it started, Matt. But really, it was I gave them a place to express themselves, and they liked the show. They liked the format, and they would add to it. The show really is a culmination of the audience's idea of what a cool show would look like. So that's why it kind of looks and feels the way it does, because I've got this team of people who were really started out as fans, and they watch it every day. They're like, hey, I think I could do this new intro, or I think I could do this outro, or hey, I got this really funny bit for when you're talking about, we have this ridiculous jingle, that sings the FBI is gay whenever I talk about the FBI. So like, you play the FBI is gay song, right? And it's like over the top. And we do some other things like that. And guys and gals that are on the team just jumped in and were like, hey, I want to add this. Can I do this? Can you think you can use it? And some stuff you use it once and it's fun and you throw it away. And other stuff you go, oh my God, this is going to stick. And it'll be on the show for, could be years. So that's kind of how it started.
I mean, I think it's amazing that you're able to build a community around what you do, that people are volunteering their time to help. And that shows how passionate they are about what they want and how they feel and believe about you. So I think that's amazing. I did not know memers was a word. Is that a real word?
I don't know.
Did you just make that up?
It's what we call it. I mean, it's what they are. They're the memers. They're the meme lords. The community aspect of it too, man, was like, I think a lot of the most talented people on the internet start off as they're almost entirely anon because they're afraid of what comes with that. And, you know, we went through, this has been education. And I've been in the public eye since 2013, since I released my self-help book. So I've had a lot of experience just being in public in general and what that looks like. And especially given the content and the fact that I have no filter, I've already kind of been through the ringer. And so I was able to kind of like help a lot of them in regards to like how to handle that and to not fear, you know, if you do end up being a public persona, it's okay. Just let your artwork speak for you is safer, because then it's within the confines of a meme versus posting your opinions, which can be a lot more, you know, difficult to explain if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily want to be in the public space. So a lot of them rely on the art form to express.
What does that say about where we are in society, that people are so scared to put their face to their ideas? Because even on Twitter, some of these biggest accounts out there are all anonymous accounts. They're all faceless accounts. People are so worried about what the repercussions would be if they were to attach their actual being with their ideas. And I don't understand why that's even a thing. Like, why we're so scared to do it. And I think when people see me and they're like, what the hell? Like, this guy's saying stuff I don't think we're allowed to say.
Right.
And I'm like, I think that's the psyop, where they make you feel like you can't say what you can't say. But the reality is you can.
Yeah.
What do you think? Where are we that people are hiding away?
I think that they were shooting for communism, man. I think they were the ultimate blow, which is exactly what you said. It's a psyop, because all you have to do is make a few examples out of a few people, and you hammer a few people who are really rich, and then you look at people who are like maybe not that successful, and they're like, I couldn't afford to take that hit, and it worked. I think they scared a lot of people. And the interesting thing is, because when they go to cancel you, if you can withstand that cancellation, you get way stronger.
Yeah.
And the public recognizes you're way stronger. And then they'll come back and they'll do it again. And you know, and it's also it's a challenge too. And I have a lot of empathy for people who rely on a stream of income that is maybe like a corporate job or something. I can't imagine. You know, I've been self-employed for a long, long time.
Yeah, me too.
And so, you know, you can't cancel me. I'm really good at what I do. So, you know, you can try and drag me through the mud, and you maybe will stop new people from watching me, but that's okay. They're still going to be curious. But I can't get terminated. Like, I'm not going to come into work and they're going to say, hey, we saw what you said on the internet. You're fired. I can't imagine what that might be like. But I think that's what they did. I think it targeted people with jobs, and then also it was really weird, man. It was like the whole country collectively lost their sense of humor.
Yeah.
So like they'll quote me, like on one hand they'll go, MAGA life coach Brenden Dilley, and they'll call me something. It depends on the article, right? So if they need me to, if I said something really offensive and really funny, I'm no longer a comedian or an entertainer. Then I'm a journalist, and they'll call me a journalist. And I'm like, dude, am I wearing a tie? Like, I got a t-shirt on, bro. Like,
where's your journalistic integrity?
Yeah, they go, oh, this Republican journalist. And I'm like, what? And it just depends on how they're hitting me and what I said, whether or not they're going to be able to, you know, how they frame that message. But when you're really free, and really free, unfortunately, there's no way around it, means financially not leveraged by their mechanisms. So when you're truly free, where you're like, I'm diversified across many different platforms, I'm financially diversified, and like, you know, for anybody making a podcast out there, the number one way to succeed and insulate yourself from cancellation is make other people money. When you make other people money, you can't get canceled, because now you're not getting canceled. Your sponsors aren't running from you, because like, no, this dude literally provides my livelihood.
Yeah.
And so that's really how you do it. We do something on my show called MAGA Commerce, and all it is a parallel economy. Just us basically saying, like, I don't need your big sponsors. I'm good. I'm going to take small businesses, many of which started out with zero, and we're going to take them to a whole different level. And then it's impossible to cancel, because they weren't built through your traditional means. They weren't built through traditional media or traditional stores. And what you find is, as you go through that, dude, you get more free, and the more free you get, the more you stand out. So like what you're just saying, you're saying things, they go, you're not allowed to say that. You're like, but I did. And I showed up to work the next day and I was still able to say more of it.
Yeah.
And there's not really, you know, there isn't any blowback. I think we're seeing the end, honestly, of cancel culture. I think it's kind of run its course.
I think the scariest part of it is that people are starting to self-censor. And that, I think, it's one thing if there is an establishment actively trying to censor you. From their perspective, I don't agree with it, but from their perspective, I get why they do it, right? It makes sense. If you're trying to keep a populace under control, you want to control what they say. I understand that if I was playing God, I may do the same.
Right.
But for us as the people, as the ants of society, to self-censor ourselves, that's so weird.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, what if I heard that someone else, I heard Brenden Dilley got canceled and got kicked off of Twitch, so I can't say it either because I don't want to get kicked off of Twitch. They don't even have to do it anymore. They don't have to censor you. They don't have to actively censor you anymore. We do it ourselves. And I think by us, people like us going out there and saying pretty much whatever the fuck we want to say, it encourages other people and shows them that it's possible to be done.
Right. Well, and exactly right is that courage and that boldness is it's infectious, man. People want that. The other thing is you take them back to like school, bro.
Yeah.
Because like I'll do this online. You know, you got somebody you know where their limit is, so they go to insult you and they'll say some shit that's like ridiculous. Like, you're a fucking pussy. And then all of a sudden you're like, dude, I'm a junior in high school again. And maybe he was a jock. He's like, I'm no fucking pussy. Right now. Yeah. And I can deal with that. I'm like, dude, stop it. Don't let everybody pull your man card.
Yeah.
Like, you're embarrassing, you know? And that's how these people behave is they've essentially allowed themselves to be shamed into being really weak and timid. But it doesn't take much to stir them up. You just fucking piss them off. That's what I've found. You piss them off a little bit, you prod them, and all of a sudden they start coming out, and you're like, you know what? We might not agree, but dude, at least you're fighting back.
Yeah.
You know, at least you're standing on something instead of just kind of being in the corner like a little bitch. Like, oh, let me think of a different way to say this insult so that I don't get in trouble by the social media companies. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. So I tend to be a little bit like, I'll be a little adversarial or controversial with certain people.
You like to poke it a little bit.
Yeah, I want to see what people are about.
Yeah.
Because you never know. Like, you don't know what people are until you test them a little bit. You push on them, and sometimes they're like, oh, you're a dick. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But I'm not doing it for the reason you think. I just want to see what you're about. And I've got to know some really incredible people in the kind of the Trump movement. You know, and that's still, I still do it with everybody. I push on them, and then I want to see what they're about. And then when they come back, what it does, it takes your respect to another level, though. You're, okay, I can rock with this person. They're like, you know, battle-tested.
Yeah, I'd rather spend my time with people that are willing to tell you the truth, that are trying to be honest, that don't hold back. I think it's just easier to deal with in the long run. People are so scared of dealing with the adversary and initially that they shy away from all of it. And I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think we are so handled with kid gloves in this world now.
Yeah.
That you got to fall a little bit. So, it's not going to kill you.
Matt, we got to talk about this then, because a perfect example is my friend Laura Loomer this weekend. I'm watching these videos of the DeSantis team running away from a 5'2" journalist that's 115 pounds and really one of the nicest people, running away because they don't want to be asked questions.
Yeah.
Like, and look, and the thing that made it weird, man, these weren't even public figures. These are people who have the name communications director in their titles.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to communicate. And it's like, you're the communications director. This is quite literally your only job is communicating to this journalist who's going to ask you hard questions, intelligent responses. And it's weird that they run away. It's strange. And it's like the embodiment of what you're describing, though, where people go, it's a confrontation. I'm not ready for that. It's probably going to be adversarial, and I'm not ready for that. And I don't want to be asked tough questions. So I'm going to duck into this men's bathroom and hide from this little girl. And it's...
Well, can I defend the runaway communications directors for a quick second?
Please.
If Laura Loomer was chasing me down, demanding to ask questions, I may run too.
Would you run too?
Right? She's not the easiest to deal with. You know you're going to go into a battle, and sometimes maybe... you just don't want to deal with it.
Do you want to really know how you win against a Laura Loomer? And she'd appreciate me saying this. Just don't lie.
Yeah.
If you're direct with Laura and you tell the truth, even if she's wrong, and it's funny, she's one of the quickest people to acknowledge, oh, I got this wrong.
Yeah.
And she just moves forward. And I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, okay, I got that wrong. The 99 other things I got right, but this one I got wrong, and that's okay. And that's how she is. The only way to deal with her is directly head on. What's your question? Okay, and then, you know, she's excitable. You got to tell her, Laura, I'm going to answer your question. Let me talk. And she'll let you. She gets it. But everybody who runs are people who they know they don't have a good answer.
Because if you give her a thread, she will pull the whole ball of yarn.
Yes.
and you're like, and they're like, damn it, I don't think I have a job anymore.
No, yeah,
I
you're done.
totally messed this up.
100%.
I get her. I kind of understand that side. A little bit. I'm just trying to show a little bit of empathy to them. Man up, do the right thing, answer the question. But I understand why they run away.
Well, at minimum, for your own self-respect. The thing is, if it's just an audio, it's one thing.
They're running communications for DeSantis. They threw
respect,
self-respect out the window a long time ago.
Touche. That's already gone. That went out with the cowboy boots, dude. But I mean, there's video. Like, I don't know how you could be a grown man running from a 5'3" Jewish girl and like go home and kiss your wife and be like, I had a good day. Laura Loomer scared me into a bathroom. Like, that's. I don't even know, dude. I couldn't do it. And so that's what I mean is I think the internet made a lot of people, it brought out a lot of weird people. And you know, it's funny, Matt, because we were talking before you started, but like, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, which means success in work outside of the internet, right? Which it's a totally different field, but really it's not that different. If you take those principles outside of it and apply it within the internet, I actually think you end up with a better business. And it kind of keeps you grounded. People who are solely internet people, I think, get really, really detached from how we actually interact with each other and how to treat people and how business is conducted. And that's what it kind of looks like. Some of these campaigns are being run by people who are really lazy and just sit on
They don't really understand what's going on. And especially if you're running for maybe the highest office. If you're running for president, I feel like you should have at least have shown some sort of success in your life, leading large groups of people, leading large teams of people. And that's my biggest knock on Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. He has never shown success in anything in his life. He was not a successful senator. He was not a successful vice president. He has never shown that he has the aptitude to lead a big group of people. And now he's president.
And look at the results. It's self-evident.
Yeah.
And you have that within a lot of our politicians.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the hardest things that Americans are waking up to is the reality that these aren't talented people. These are people that were many of which were selected simply because they were willing to say the thing and to not have a problem with saying the thing. The conscience goes out the window. And you kind of watch their behavior and how they're managed and you know, like a Joe Biden, good example, man. You get and the thing that's weird is leveraging power is not a business. And that's not a real tangible, that's fraud, right? Like, that's crime. That's not, you're not building something where it's adding value to your community or the world. You're not doing something that's generating wealth inside of our GDP and your economy. You're just simply withdrawing constantly based on, you know, your leverage over other people or abroad, or you're selling out your fellow countrymen or whatever on trade deals or so on and so forth, like Joe did, the Clintons did it. And then the difference when you put somebody like a Donald Trump in and you look and go, he knows how to run giant organizations, top to bottom. He's had some failures in business, which is great.
Yes. And
he's had a tremendous amount of success. And you look at what the United States of America is, you know, and you go, it's essentially a business.
Yeah.
And when we run it that way and it's run by somebody who understands those dynamics, the results are amazing.
Yeah, people will say, oh, don't you know that Trump had a bankruptcy in this business? I'm like, that's how business works. I've never met a successful businessman that has never failed in anything in business. You have to fail in order to learn, and that's the best way to learn, the quickest way to learn, and you understand the pitfalls and you do better the next time. That is what business is.
100%.
And then you got guys like Joe Biden who've never had to do that, have been just nothing but failures. And all of a sudden we expect him to do a good job. Again, it's showing in the economy now, which is horrible. I hate when he tweets out, I apologize. He doesn't tweet out. When his team tweets out, this is proof Bidenomics is working. And they'll show some sort of obscure stat, unemployment numbers or GDP, or throw around these numbers that really don't have any actual relevance to us. The real relevance is, are you spending more at the grocery store or are you not? Is it more expensive to loan money or is it not?
Right.
How many times you're getting taxed, and they say we're not going to tax more, but yet I have less money. The government has more money. They're constantly borrowing more money. How are you going to say it's good?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, Joe and the Democrats, and this is something that a lot of people haven't been paying attention. The only reason you're not in a far worse position, the economy that Donald Trump built was not a boom bust economy. It was foundationally strong. And so Joe has had a really hard time eroding what Trump built because it was just fundamentally a strong, healthy economy. It wasn't predicated just on cheap credit. It wasn't predicated on easy loans given away. It was based around production, right? Energy, real estate, manufacturing. That's real economics. And a lot of these guys get in and they just play with the numbers. They move things around. They cook the books. They start calculating your employment numbers a little differently, right? You're like, well, this guy's doing great. He's very busy. He's got 4 jobs. It's like he has 4 jobs. He's killing himself because groceries have went up 150% or whatever. It's crazy. So they're having a hard time breaking the thing that Trump built. They've done a pretty good job. They've screwed it up with the help of the Fed. They printed way too much money. I don't think people even fully understand. I think a lot of yours probably does, because I know you explain and you go through these things quite a bit too, but a lot of people don't realize, the price of things aren't going up. It's your value of your money is going down. And they printed so much money. And what a lot of people don't realize is that money, when it's first printed, is it's most valuable in that first 6 months to a year, which is why it's dispersed at the top of the pyramid, right? So in our Ponzi scheme, we call an economy in America, they take that money and it's massively valuable at that point. And the reason 2021 looked the way it did was because they were signing all those bills for spending. And that money didn't hit the economy until the middle of 22. And that's when the Fed responded and went, oh my God, we've got a problem, right? But even still, what they're having a hard time doing, even Joe can't slow down. He can't kill production. The American worker, everywhere you go in this country, is busy as shit still. All over this country. I remember a real recession, 2008, when the buildings were boarded up and businesses were gone. And there was nothing happening. When we set numbers aside and we just drive around, when we look at production and you drive around in your communities, people are busy. They have places to go. They have jobs. We have skyscrapers in Atlanta going up every day. I was out in Miami this summer. Big, giant buildings going up. I can't speak to every part of the country, but a lot of major metropolitans, there's plenty of work. There's plenty, but that's not the issue. The issue isn't having work and killing yourself. The issue is the economics and the inflation and the management of our money supply and the spending and how it's being spent is so bad that you're exerting the same amount of energy or maybe more, and you're getting 20-30% less back, and your lifestyle is reflecting it. And that's where a lot of people are really hurting, especially the middle class, man. You're getting just demolished if you're depending on your gas prices in California or your food prices. You might still be pulling down 6 figures or something, but when those two things go up 100, 150%, 200%, there goes ballet for the kids. There goes extracurriculars. There goes dinners out with your wife. And now your quality of life is really diminished. And I think that's what a lot of people are experiencing right now.
Do you think right now it's Trump and it's Biden? That's the idea that people have going in. I personally don't think Biden is going to make it to the next election. I feel like it's definitely going to be, if I had to bet, I would think that it would be Michelle Obama at the number 1 spot and Gavin Newsom at the number 2 spot. I think that's going to be the Democratic ticket.
It's a good theory. See, whenever I look at politics, I look at human beings first. I don't know if you know this. Michelle Obama is super lazy. And I'm not saying that to be a smart ass. She's legitimately lazy as shit. So could she end up being the nominee? Maybe. I don't know if she has the ambition necessary to go in and campaign for a year and take all of those questions. You know, it's a hard life. You're going to walk away from an $18 million house on the beach. That's what they got. To go re-enter public service, and you and your husband's name is basically dog shit now. How long they last on Netflix? They had a podcast and a show, dude. I don't know. They didn't last 6 months.
Yeah.
Nobody gave a shit. So my only counter argument isn't even a political one. I just don't think Michelle Obama has the ambition to ever be president.
But we also know that in order to be the Democratic nominee and potentially win the presidency, you actually don't even have to campaign.
Well, not anymore. That's a good point. It's a great counterpoint. That's very true. Gavin Newsom, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going for number 2. I say Michelle Obama because I don't think Joe goes another term. I just don't see it. I think what they're going to say to him is, hey, there's a lot of scandals going on. You're kind of unpopular. If you were to gracefully walk away, blame your health, say you want to spend more time with your family, we'll give you a nice monument, and we'll remember you in history as a good guy.
It's a nice sales pitch.
Or you could attempt to run for president again. We're going to let the indictments start coming, maybe look into your family history because we've been covering for you for this long.
Right.
And you can tarnish your legacy forever. Which one do you want? I think he would choose, I'll walk away.
So Joe's not pulling the strings over there.
Oh, definitely not.
So the question you actually have to pose is to Jill. And Jill ain't giving up the White House for anybody. She's going down with the ship. I can tell you a little inside baseball. The campaign, Trump's campaign, isn't worried about Michelle Obama. Gavin Newsom's a problem.
Yes.
That's the one who's actually legitimately angling to get onto the ticket for the Democrats.
And he is phenomenal at what he does.
Yes.
Can we give him credit and say he may be the best politician in America right now?
He can lie better than anybody I've seen in politics. He is a very white Obama.
Yes, he's the horrible person, phenomenal at his
He
job.
can orate, he can argue, and what he does is a fairly it's a talent. It can be trained, but he has the ability to give you partial truths to get you to start to put your defenses down, and then to build in his lies underneath the truths. It's very slick. That's some CIA shit because he does it in a way that, like, if you're just a normal person, you're catching the truths and you go, oh, I know that is true. Oh my, that's a really good point. And then you're missing the fact he's slipping in and he's changing how you feel about something or think about something with total bullshit. He is a trickster, man. He is a candidate that's a problem for anybody other than Trump.
Yes.
Trump will mop the floor with Gavin Newsom because Gavin has charisma, but Gavin's an actual idiot. When you get past the surface level, like we talked about earlier, Gavin doesn't build organizations. Gavin doesn't run actual businesses. What he's done is essentially, work in politics his entire life. And I think he was a lawyer. He was a mayor of San Francisco at one point, right? His family got him in. He is a very charismatic person, but he's not an actual intelligent person. Not only that, someone's gonna have to beat Trump's policies. And no one on the Democrat side is even pretending to have good policy right now. That's one of the weirdest parts about this election. Everybody says Donald Trump's running a much better campaign this way or time around. Maybe. I don't think he changed much. I think the electorate changed heavily. But the bottom line is that Trump's policies are fantastic. Agenda 47 is incredible. I don't know how any American who's honest with themselves can't read through that list and go, this affects my life. These are life-changing. He's got stuff in there about tax cuts for new families that want to have additional children, where he wants to incentivize the growth of the family in the United States of America, entrepreneurship. He's got stuff on energy independence, border security. Everything's in there. He's got really forward-thinking ideas as far as building additional cities in the United States to expand and sort of depopulize some of our more really dense communities and sort of spread us out a little bit better so you have a little more room. It's an incredible platform. No one from the Democrat Party is even pretending to have a platform at this point. And you can go out and try to look for one. To be fair, nobody on the Republican ticket is doing it either. You can go on DeSantis's campaign. You can go on any of these other people. and they might like rip off versions of Trump's, but it's not comprehensive. It's not really well thought out, and none of them are, I don't think, very inspiring. So Gavin Newsom, the challenge that he has, he's going to be able to bamboozle a lot of America. Californians hate him already.
I thought so, but yet he's still governor.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that is probably one of the most rigged states in the entire country.
That guy is so good at what he does.
They tried to recall him.
He went up for recall. Everyone said, we hate this guy. I can't believe he was hanging out at the French Laundry maskless. And then they put him right back in. That guy is so slick. Well, anyone else would have been gone.
In California, they do things different.
Yes.
And so, look, I mean, I don't want to be the guy that goes, oh, elections are rigged and I discount everything. But I'm telling you right now, you'll never know what the real numbers in California are. It's too big, it's too convoluted, and it's too corrupt. I mean, it's at a level of corruption that is, when you even peel back that layers a little bit and you talk to people inside that establishment machine out there, and you just go, there's no point in even trying to save this thing. That's a mindset too, by the way. Like, that's not just, oh, we have software that rigs elections. We're talking about, like, it's kind of like when you look south of the border in Mexico, right? And what makes Mexico so dangerous is that when you have an entire culture that has accepted corruption and criminality as a totally normal part of life, what the challenge you have is that the people within the I guess leadership positions are already arriving with compromised integrity. And that's the problem in Mexico. The problem in Mexico is, like, you could get murdered because someone leaked your information, and that someone is like one of the senior people that is supposed to be the most trusted. And so that's kind of, California's got the same problem, which is, yeah, we rig our elections, so what? And then you go, you got a room of 20 people, and nobody within that room thinks, they go, well, we've been doing it this way for 30 years. What's the problem? And that's why I've instructed people on my show. I'm like, the real war you're trying to win is going to take a lot longer because it's a cultural thing. We have to get back to the point where people go, I don't cheat, not because I'm afraid of getting caught or because there's a rule about it. I don't cheat because I don't cheat. I'm not that kind of human being. We don't have that yet, right? And so you have to, that's literally a culture war. That's where you have to try to bring people up to to buy into this idea of being an actually legitimately virtuous person that's like, I might be different than you or whatever, but I'm still not going to I'm not going to lie, cheat, and steal to get ahead. When you have cultures that have accepted that, you end up with, the South American politics, which is all the same. It's just, corrupt.
But what if both sides understand fully that the elections are rigged, that they are fraudulent, and that being able to leverage and use that is also part of the game?
Yes.
And if that is so, and the left uses that to their advantage, the right also uses it too. It's not like one side is one cheating and the other one doesn't cheat at all. Let's be real. They both cheat.
Yes.
One side's just better at cheating.
Well, one side broke the agreement. Okay, so we'll use Arizona as an example. Arizona is a rigged state, and it was built by Republicans rigged, okay? And it wasn't a problem when John McCain was winning re-election.
Yeah.
They built the apparatus. What they didn't realize was their leadership was all aging out, and the people on the opposite side of the aisle had greater ambitions than the people that were on the Republican side. I think Republicans got caught with their pants down, to be honest with you. I think after Obama got in, a new type of Democrat started rising up. I think that the establishment uniparty used to be the good old boys club on both sides. Yeah. And so Republicans weren't going to challenge Democrats to rigged election. That dialogue back and forth wasn't going to happen because they were both doing it, but they had agreed, okay, you guys are in Texas, we're in whatever, so you take your state, we'll take our state, and we're good.
Gentlemen's rules to battle and war.
Right. Because at the end of the day, dude, they all argue publicly, and then they go get hammered drunk and have orgies in D.C. That's been going on for 50 years or more.
Yeah.
But I think what happened was when they jumped the shark, when Democrats decided, to hell with this, we're looking at socialism and communism as legitimate means of governance in this country, I think they didn't give the memo to the Republicans. I think Republicans really did kind of get caught flat-footed and went, wait a minute. Wait. This wasn't what we ever agreed on. We've always had our traditional rules of where we are located and how this is. And all of a sudden, Democrats were like, we want Texas, right? They looked at, we want Texas, and we're going to find a way to get Texas. And they started looking at Arizona. We want Arizona. Republicans were like, what are you talking about? This is Arizona. This is a Wild West, man. This is Wyatt Earp. You can't fucking have Arizona. And they were like, watch, we're going to take it. And that's where I think a lot of that came down to. This is why Republicans have to understand you've got to almost, what they're staring down the barrel of is not just having Democrats in charge. It's going to affect you in ways that are very tangible.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what it takes to get people to finally change, to say, I can't do this. This isn't even about politics. I'm literally going to lose my way of life. My kids aren't going to be in a safe place anymore. I'm running, when you start feeling that in your community, it's hard to justify whatever your political views are. And I think we're starting to reach that point. I think people are really scared right now.
I think in the 2020 election, I think Republicans leaning into, we're not going to do the mail-in ballots, and we're going to show up in person, and we're going to create this red wave. I think that was a calculated mistake. I think because in people's hearts, they're like, yes, we'll all go vote. Democrats had 3 months to vote. I'm not going to do it today. That's fine. I'll do it tomorrow. Okay, fine. You have 3 months to kick that can down the curb.
Yep.
2020 comes around, and everyone's expected to show up on that day. And you're like, well, it's kind of hot outside.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to go today. I'm sure everyone else will go. My one vote doesn't really matter. And if enough people do it, because the margins of loss were so small, I think if people had just embraced it and said early on, mail-in ballots suck, but if you have even the slightest chance that you're going to change your mind and you don't feel like leaving the house that morning,
right,
just mail it in. I feel like if that push was there, the results could have been different.
Maybe. The real challenge we had in 2020, Matt, like we'll use Georgia.
Yeah.
Because one of my former team members is the guy. He's got subpoena power in Georgia right now.
Yeah.
And he found what they did. He's got it, and it's all documented, and he open sourced it. His handle on Twitter X is Mad Liberals. But Mad's got it all, and he spent 3 years unearthing how they did this.
Oh, I've been following him. He does a really good job.
He's incredible. He's a genius. Yeah. He's an actual genius, and he's got incredible people. But he found the votes that were essentially, he goes, these are just the counties I targeted because I didn't need to go beyond that. And here's the votes, and Trump won. And it's amazing what they were doing. They waited until the election night, and then they stopped counting, and they said, how much are we down? And they said, okay, start printing. And the thing that's funny is, the documentation he has shows when these ballots were printed. Some of them were printed right before the recount. So it was like 3.5 weeks after the election.
Yeah.
And then because they were paranoid, they said, we cannot mix these in with the real ballots. So they did Mad Liberals the favor of writing recount ballot at the top of the recount ballots so that you knew the ones that were printed off on December 2nd or whatever the date was, it says recount on there. And he found the votes, and he found exactly how they did it. He also, stuff that hasn't been put out publicly, he found how they coordinated it between 10 counties, 10 plus counties. So this was not there's no way for it to have been an accident. It was coordination between 10. That what they did was they took one big county, and then they took, I think, 9 additional very small counties, and were able to make up the number and make it a close race. It was ridiculous. It was Trump won soundly in Georgia, and the challenge you have, the mail-in, you're right. There could have been maybe a different outcome. I think we're really screwed, though, to be honest with you. Once you give the opponent the ability to continue counting until they reach the number they need, it doesn't matter what you're going to do.
But if you need to come up with votes, if you have to come up with 10 or 15,000 votes, it's different than needing to come up with 150,000 votes.
Absolutely. Amen.
So if the disparity was so large,
correct,
they would have been like, all right, can't do this one. Maybe we need to move on to another state.
Right.
It's the best way to put up the resistance wall.
Absolutely.
If Trump had won by 100, 200, 300,000 votes in Georgia, they would not even attempted it because the project would have been too big of a project.
Correct.
With too much risk.
Correct. You're absolutely right. And that's actually the strategy for 24.
Yeah.
There's not even any hiding it. The strategy is we're going to make it to where you can't possibly print enough ballots to catch him.
Yeah.
And that's why, I've been telling my audience the number is 100 million. You get Donnie J to 100 million.
That's a big number.
It's a big ass number.
Yeah.
You get him to 100 million and you go home, and it don't matter what happens on after election night. There is no coming back from it. Part of it too is, you look where he's at right now, man. And he's pulling 5, 6, 10 points ahead. And he's never pulled ahead in any race he's run in.
Can I tell you how much I hate that?
Which part of it? That he's pulling ahead?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because when they wrote, if you remember 2022, and I was watching, I think the Daily Wire was doing a live stream of election night. And they were sitting there, and all the hosts were sitting around, and they were drinking scotch and smoking cigars. And they were like, red tsunami is coming. We're going to sweep, because they saw the poll numbers. They were so confident. And Republicans have a history of celebrating too early.
Absolutely agreed.
And because we see the numbers of, okay, Trump is up. If the election was today, Trump would win. What it does is create apathy in the electorate.
Yes.
They say, we're going to win anyway. Do I have to go? Right. I feel like the message needs to be, no matter what, we're going to lose. You have to go, because your vote, that one vote matters that much more.
Totally.
And
but
I hate
we're
that
a year out, though. We
are a year out. But once you hear that enough times, over and over and over again, people start feeling like, you know what? We got this in the bag.
Yeah, I could see that. Here's what I'll tell you about.
Republicans are a bunch of nerds. They love to celebrate early.
Okay, but you're right. But here's why it's. I'll give you a thought to not necessarily a counterpoint, but a thought. The electorate's changing.
Yes.
And the other thing is, you haven't given Joe another year to fuck things up. So you're right. We're looking at today, and you go, people get complacent. It's like, well, what about 60 days before the election when we're in World War III and people are having a hard time getting a hold of food? Like, who knows? But we got a whole other year of this asshole ruining things. But even with that being said, it's a double-edged sword, right? The one side is, you're right, apathy and everything that could be created in the existing electorate. But pulling ahead for an extended period of time has another effect. It removes stigma around supporting Trump for people who are new to the Republican Party, minorities, Hispanic voters, black voters who never would vote Republican. You're looking and you're going, dude, this guy, I got to at least see what he's about. Like, he couldn't be worse than Biden, number one. Number two, I'm not really the weird guy in my neighborhood now that's rocking with Trump if he's up 15. And so that's the double-edged sword is I think you're right. It could create apathy within the existing electorate, but simultaneously you could be galvanizing a whole new voter base. And that's what happened in 16 was the silent majority. That was 16 was really, a lot of people forget, Trump didn't win because Republican voters showed up.
Yeah.
Trump won because he siphoned off a shitload of Democrats in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania that were so disenfranchised with the party. Like, what the hell do I have to lose? I'm going to give this guy a shot. And that was the red wave was really a silent majority that said, I'm finally showing up for somebody. The amount of feedback we're getting right now from the inner city and from minority voters, people who are like, I didn't follow politics. I assumed the guy was racist. And now they're like, that was all bullshit. Yeah. I can't live through another 4 years of this current guy. That voting block, what's interesting about that voting block too, Matt, nobody polls them.
Yeah.
So you don't know how big that voting block is. That's the thing that's interesting about this. So when I reference polls, I don't necessarily do it from an overconfident standpoint. I think it says a lot about those are the people that were willing to sit through a bullshit poll on the phone. That's not the people who are actually being completely destroyed right now. Because those people aren't being phone called from D.C. to be on a polling, right? And so we really don't know how big his actual support is right now. What we have indications, though. In 16, you went to a Trump rally, you got your ass kicked.
Yeah.
You were going to have to deal with it. I dealt with it. A lot of people dealt with it. You were going to have people on the street trying to prevent you from entering, stuff thrown at you, rocks, all kinds of shit. 2020, irrelevant. COVID, nobody wants to go outside. Man, I've been going to Trump rallies the last 3 years. And they don't even counter protest anymore, bro. In downtown areas, you can't even get Antifa to show up anymore. I went to a rally one time in Arizona where we had one of the biggest Antifa groups in 2016 coming out trying to beat people up. or whatever, the counter protest. I don't know if it was Antifa, but it was a group like that. Go out there. I was at a rally in 21, 22. Dude, they don't even show up anymore. We had one weird lady with her hair all crazy got kicked out. That was it. It was one lady.
Yeah.
And so there's signs of like you're starting to chip away. I mean, I went to what was it, the jail when Trump was here in Atlanta. Dude, even the counter protesters to Trump were super pleasant.
Yeah.
They weren't, it's not the same people.
Well, I also feel like that's an indicator of Georgia. People in Georgia tend to be a little more conservative, a little more nicer.
In that part of Atlanta?
I think so. I feel it. Really. Even the rowdiest, craziest people in Atlanta are relative to the crazies and the rowdy in New York or LA. They're much more polite.
You think?
I for sure, I think so.
I don't know. I think that near that jail is probably not the best area. I think that's one of the worst jails, I think, in the entire state.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right, but even still, it wasn't. You know what it was? It wasn't radicalization.
Yeah.
I'm okay with opposing views and opposing parties. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of these people have been neutered that were. Sometimes you can tell how popular a candidate is not by how many people love him, but how much less hate he's getting.
Yeah.
And I think Trump's just getting less hate, man.
But when I think of 2020 and I think of the Biden campaign, and he had 8 people in circles, right? 6 feet social distancing was not enough. There was 20 feet in a 100,000 square foot room with 15 people in there. In these little circles.
The best was the Jeep dealership. Remember when they were all in individual cars and he was on his stage?
Weird.
Like it was a fucking drive-in movie.
But he was able to win.
Right.
Legitimately or illegitimately, regardless, he was able to win with nobody.
Right.
So how much weight do we really be giving to the size of the numbers and how positive the Trump rallies are?
Well, I don't think you could give much... I think, and you're right. In a close race, they're gonna cheat, right? I think that's the thing I try to get across to people. They're gonna cheat. So just anything different than that is silly. You're extremely naive. They're gonna cheat. You have to overcome the cheating. You have to overcome the percentages. So if they say you're up 5, you better win by 12.
Yeah,
you better win by 13. You better. And the thing is, too, is like, you know. I think it's a little bit different right now simply because I think America collectively stared into the abyss, dude. And I think there's going to be a large portion of people that always will support Trump. Like I think his bottom is 70 million. 70 million are voting for Trump minimum.
No matter what. From jail, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're like 70 million people in this country have already drawn their line in the sand and said, fuck you, I'm dying on this hill.
Yeah.
Then you look and you go, well, if he's polling at double what he was polling at with black voters, how many more votes is that? If he's polling 15 points higher right now with Hispanic voters than at any point in 2020, how many votes is that? Then the real important electorate in this entire country that the both sides don't like to talk about is the independent voter.
Yeah.
He's crushing Joe Biden with independents. Joe needs to be plus 10 to beat Trump with independents, and Trump's up 15 with independent voters. I think the country has been properly scared shitless, to be honest with you. And Democrats are going to cheat, and the goal is to show up in numbers that are completely where it's irrefutable, where there's no way to overcome it. I wrote about this, on Twitter yesterday. It's like you're in a situation right now. It's a power struggle, and when you're in a power struggle in a post-justice America, it's the guy who plays by the rules and declares moral authority who is the weakest one. Democrats win because Democrats know what your weaknesses are because they know what limit you won't go to. You will only go to here, but I get so much shit. Republican voters tell me, well, you guys made a deep fake and you made DeSantis look like he was dropping out. And it's like, well, yeah, if you're retarded and you didn't listen to it and it's obviously funny.
Yeah.
Okay. But we shouldn't do that. Why shouldn't we do that? We do the same thing with the left. We do deep fakes of Joe Biden saying crazy shit. Although that's not very hard to do anymore.
Not difficult.
But Republicans have this internal constitution, which is beautiful, and I love it in peacetime. It's great. This is the kind of you want to be next door to a Republican during peacetime. These motherfuckers don't know how to fight.
Yeah,
They don't know how to fight. Like, no one wins a war, honestly.
Yeah.
Wars are won by guys that are strategic and literally are willing to do whatever it takes to win the war. And I think that's what American voters need to understand right now is you're in a war for your way of life. It's not just the White House, and it's not, this sort of tribalism of left versus right. You're quite literally having a showdown between capitalism and a constitutional republic versus this weird Marxist movement that wants to destroy everything beautiful and everything culturally yours. And once you understand those stakes, I think you kind of have to accept that you're going to have to get very creative. I don't give a fuck what the meme team. Brenden, is this too far? No, do it more.
Yeah.
We've got RFK Jr. memes where it's his logo on his arm and he's injecting heroin. Fuck him. I don't care. Like, oh, that's in bad taste. Is it? Being a freebasing heroin and crystal meth for 14 years? And I'm supposed to be like, well, yeah, you guys, but he figured it out. Now he's totally presidential. Give me a fucking break. Like, no. Like, there's nothing I'm not going to say to make sure everybody knows. Like, you can still vote for him, but you're going to know the truth of that man all the way through before you get to vote. And I think that's what's different is I think historically Republicans don't like to throw those punches. They're very, that's in the past. That's not going to matter to voters. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Just bring it up. Talk to him about him driving his ex-wife to killing herself because he cheated on her with 37 other women and then he gloated about it until she hung herself. Like, that's important. It seems kind of like, dude, do you want that guy leading you? So I think they just I think a lot of Republican voters have to understand and accept you're going to have to fight a little different than you've ever fought before.
Because for a while they thought, we don't like the way Trump talks because he is too aggressive and he calls people names.
Right.
But it's proven effective.
Right.
He may be the best at coming up with nicknames for people because they stick. When he calls him Sleepy Joe, everyone calls him Sleepy Joe, and it's a really good nickname to have.
Nickname.
When you call her Crooked Hillary, it's a phenomenal name.
Yeah.
He's so good at this, and he has the ability to create these marketable names. And as Republicans, they're trying to lean into it. They're just not as funny as some of the guys on the left.
No.
The left they're funnier.
Well, the left, I think, had the culture for a long time, right? And this is part of what I do on my show, and that's what the meme team tries to do. Because look, like a lot of us grew up, we're either Gen X. I don't think we have any boomers on our team. I think it's all Gen X and millennials. And, we grew up with, I think, what was a great American culture.
Yeah.
80s sitcoms, right? 80s sitcoms, 90s hip hop music. Like, that's a great fucking era, dude.
Yeah.
80s and 90s. And you look and it's nostalgia and it's like the beginning of the internet, beginning of cell phones. Fashion is like ridiculous at that time. Everybody's partying like maniacs. I think it was a really neat time. And the culture was cool. The left captured the culture, but the left lost the culture because the left's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
Because Marxism's not funny, dude. They're not funny because they cancel each other. And then, like, once you're not able to laugh, you're not able to relate. And once you're not able to relate, you're no longer connected, I think, with reality of what people are living through. And so you're right. Republicans lost the culture war and then lost the White House and lost a lot of power for an extended period of time. So then, by that logic, we have to take back the culture. And the way you take back the culture is you go, remember this? And we play, we've got hip hop videos. We did She Ain't Nothing But a Vote Rigger. And that thing got millions of plays. That shit slaps too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we got Fatty Willis and it's a Kanye cut. And everyone's like, dude, this thing that went everywhere. Everybody had that thing. And you do stuff that is like, you go, Republicans did that?
Yeah.
Right? And then people are like, damn, that's funny. Or that's really good. And I think that's how you start to bring the culture back is also, look, when you're fighting against, like we started this conversation with censorship, when you're fighting against that beast, that's for everyone. Yeah. That's not just so Republicans can be funny again. That's so Democrats can come back out of their houses and start being interesting and entertaining. And because right now there's no art in this country.
No.
The music sucks right now. The movies suck for the most part.
Horrible.
There's no pride in what they're doing. There's no pride in the storytelling. It's derivative. It's non-imaginative.
Clicks and views economy.
It's bad, dude. Yeah. It's very bad. And it's weird because my wife and I like to sit, at night we'll throw on like old sitcoms, just random, dude. You throw on some of these old sitcoms and you go, fuck, what a great night. Like, you know what show you pulled up, dude? This is dating probably both of us. I don't think either one of us would have been old enough to watch it when it first debuted. But just for fun, I was like, let's watch Taxi, right? Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
It's like very old. But dude, they were like plays. Like the way that it was filmed is so immersive for an audience, not just at home, but the people who are watching it being taped, right? And it's brilliant. The dialogue's brilliant. The interactions are hilarious. And it's like American culture at its peak. And you look and you go, how the fuck did we go from this to this shit that's on TV right now where they're totally unmemorable. You can't remember the characters' names or who plays them because you have absolutely no connection to anything they're saying or doing. And it's filmed in a way that is extremely cheap. It looks cheap. It doesn't even look well done. So sometimes I like to go back and look at the culture, and we do this with our music and the memes too. It's you go, dude, we had a great country, and we're not that far off from it. We can still create. So, I think that's a big part of this. Part of what I do, man, is just trying to bring that culture back. Because I'm not really that Republican. I'm not that guy that's, buttoned up. I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. I'm very flawed. I've had a very colorful life. A couple divorces, kids with a couple different women. Finally found love, settled down, been with my wife 9 years now. We just celebrated our second anniversary marriage.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was yesterday. Thank you. So, and I think what part of the reason that, I would try to make people, I want to make sure everybody understands that is because there are a lot of independent voters and Democrats that reject the Republican Party based on exactly what you just said. But when they look, they go, well, that guy, I can relate to him, and he makes me laugh. And actually, I read his book. I trust him. He actually helped me fix some things. Then they're like, I might need to give this a second look. What if they're not that anymore? What if the Republican Party is not Bush and Romney anymore? What if it's guys like Trump who, has been completely a hero to this, to the inner city for a long time, and they look like a guy like me. It's like that guy. Well, he went through hell and back, and says
a little rough around the edges. It's more relatable.
Open about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. It's like, look, you can still be a good person and have made mistakes and overcome your, shortcomings or whatever, or talk a certain way. I grew up in California. I'm from Northern California, the Bay Area. Like, I'm going to talk the way I talk. I can't, I was in Mar-a-Lago last week talking this way, and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what you fucking get. Like,
yeah, I saw pictures of you in Mar-a-Lago with your beautiful wife.
Thank you.
Probably too hot for you, let's be real.
Oh, of course.
But at Mar-a-Lago, I've never been.
It's incredible.
How awesome is it?
So it was my third time going.
How awesome is it being at a $15 million estate?
Oh my God. Yeah, that was like the guard. That's the guard gate, right? Like the front. No.
How is it like being in the slums?
Dude, yeah, exactly. No, Matt, it's so it was my third time. First time I went was Trump's 2024 announcement speech a year ago in November, right? In a couple, November 15th or whatever it was. And I arrived and it was really dark. So I didn't see any of the grounds when I arrived. Obviously, you get into the venue and you're like, oh my God, like it's like gold leaf walls and ceilings. The second time I went was in April after he was arrested and indicted in Miami. And they invited me out for because it's Trump. What do you do when you get arrested? You throw an after party, obviously, right? So they're like, dude, you want to come out for this party? I'm like, yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
so I fly down to Miami. I get my suit jacket. I'm like, let's fucking roll, man. Or not Miami, rather, West Palm. But he flies up from Miami after being, he's been, whatever, charged and everything. And he throws a party. And now that one, I got to actually see, I got to drive on Ocean Drive to his house. So Ocean Drive is West Palm, or Palm Beach Island. You're driving south on it. And then Mar-a-Lago is on the west side of that road. And I got to tell you, it changes your opinion of him instantly.
Really?
Instantly.
Explain that.
Okay, so Donald Trump's a billionaire. Oh, he's rich and he lives the life. And you got this idea of it. But there's a disconnect because we're all normal people.
Yeah.
When you see where he lives, like this is my fucking life. Like I wake up, I eat breakfast right here, and then I go over here and I sit on my private beaches. You don't fully make the connection of his sacrifice until you see what he walks away from to go do this bullshit.
Go sit in courtrooms all day long.
When you see where he lives, Matt, it changes your opinion of him. If you have a good opinion, it becomes something totally different. Because you realize, what I realized was how much better of a person Donald Trump is than I am. And I'm totally comfortable saying that. Because I like to think I'm a good guy. I like to do things. I think I try to be self-sacrificing, and I don't know if I'm self-sacrificing enough to be 78, 79 years old and worked my whole life to have what he's got, to have that life, and then go, you know what? I think I'm going to go get hated for like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to subject not just my children, but my grandchildren, all of my businesses. And then, oh, P.S., by the way, if I win, I get to go live in a fucking house that's way more rundown than anything I own, which is, the White House. It's not, I mean, it's historical, but it ain't fucking Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
It just changes your opinion because I think a lot of people go, well, I've sacrificed for this movement. You go, what does that look like? And maybe it's time. But dude, that guy sacrificed, and you see it, you see what his sacrifice looks like, and you're like, dude, you're such a good person. Like I would have done it. I'd have been like, you know what? Fuck you guys. Good luck.
Because the reality is he could call it a day, sail into the sunset, enjoy his life, start a new TV show, start a business, buy an island, buy a country. There are a million options that are ahead of Donald Trump at this moment.
100%.
And he's willing to give that all up to go into the trenches and have his name constantly dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
Fighting off everyone, going after indictment after indictment after indictment, going from courthouse to courthouse to courthouse.
Well, I'll give you another example. Dude. So Mar-a-Lago changes you. I was trying to convince the campaign to let more normal people go there. I go, this would change people's opinion. Like this is it's an instant change. Because you know how it is, like when you see how someone lives, you kind of get a better idea who they are, right? So if you've ever been to a Trump hotel or stayed there, you're like, yo, you can say what you want, but that dude knows how to run a business.
I've stayed at a lot of Trump hotels.
So you know what I'm talking about.
He runs a very tight ship.
And they're incredible. They're so wonderfully nice.
Yeah.
And you go, this is not like, and I've stayed at other nice hotels that are supposed to be of the same caliber, and they ain't like Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Or not Mar-a-Lago, but the Trump Towers or whatever you're going to. Trump's establishments are run a certain kind of way. So when you see where he lives, it's kind of the same thing. You go, my God, dude, like this is where you have your breakfast and you and your wife hang out, like your kid, like this is crazy. It's so nice. The other thing that changes your opinion is when I got my photograph with President Trump, me and my wife, and you go and you're in this VIP line or whatever, and there's, I think there was like, for Georgia, I think there was 40 people that had been selected for whatever reasons. Maybe they were donors or maybe they were, politicians. I was
or a memer.
Yeah, maybe you're a memer, right? You work for the Dilley show and you're a memer. No, but I think I had CJ Pearson was in front of me, and he works with the Republican Party here in Georgia. And then like 8 people behind us was Carrie Lake. She happened to be there. She's like, Brenden. I'm like, hey, what's up? And so she was there to take her picture with Trump. So you got all these different kind of eclectic groups of people. But we're standing in line, and you're waiting for a while. He's on a plane flying down from Bedminster, and then he arrives, and he first he's greeted by God knows how many people. He's shaking hands, signing autographs, taking pictures, smiling. I'm in line. He's doing this, working the crowds. Then he gets in the car. He comes to the place, and then you realize how long that process is.
Yeah,
because there's we do our thing. We're moving up, shake hand, walk off, go find seats. He's still standing there. He's still standing there, shaking everybody's hands, smiling. All the pictures are money. You know what I'm saying? It gives you a deeper understanding because he stood there and does this. He greets, like I said, 40 of us or whatever it was, after greeting the people at the place. And then he goes out and does almost a 90-minute speech. And he finishes that speech, goes to a Waffle House, spends another half an hour with people being mobbed, gets back on his plane, flies to a different speech in a different part of Georgia or South Carolina that night, and gives another 90-minute speech.
Does it all over again.
And he's 78 years young.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, okay, not only is he a much more, the guy is self-sacrificing to the level where I'm like, I aspire to be this kind of a human where I'm like, I care about my country so much. This is what I'm going to do with my free time. But then just from sheer work ethic, you look and go, are you kidding me? Like you look and it's because it's a grind. It's a grind giving speeches, and it's a grind meeting the public and shaking hands. And he handles it all with so much grace, but he's a machine, dude.
Yeah.
And that was the other part of it, is like when you get to like that's these are my as a Trump fan who grew a business that was big enough to be able to have some of these unique experiences. These were the things that probably most impacted how I felt about him as probably on a personal level. But I always loved him politically because of what he was doing for my family with his policies. But on a personal level, this shit took me to a whole different level because I got to witness what he goes through and what his day looks like, and then also where he lives and what he's giving up. And when you combine all of it, that's when you start to have a different appreciation for what he's trying to accomplish.
At 78 years old, do you think you could potentially live a similar type of scheduled life? Maybe not the lifestyle, obviously, it's a different level.
Right, yes.
But do you think you could live with the same amount of passion that he lives with?
God willing, man. I mean, that's a full life.
78's, I mean, my father is not 78.
Right.
He's retired.
Right.
He wants to enjoy the rest of his life. I think most people in their 70s are like, I'm done. What else is there to do?
Well, and this is the secret sauce to Donald Trump. He that lives for this is what is his happiness, dude.
Yeah.
This is what's funny. They determined the best way to stop Trump was to fight Donald Trump. And it's like that's his special sauce, bro. The fighting is what fucking gets him up in the morning.
Yeah.
Like the only thing you could have done, and they're so stupid, it's too late now. So 2 years ago, if you had me on this broadcast, I wouldn't have said what I'm about to say to you, okay? There was only one way to ever stop Trump, and no one ever figured it out. I fucking figured it out. And even still, he probably would have beat my strategy. The only way to actually have stopped Donald Trump was to ignore him.
Yes.
You had to make him irrelevant. And the only way to make him irrelevant is you had to not let him bait you into attacking him. You had to not let him bait you into indicting him. You had to treat him like he's just a doddering old man that wants to have his ego trip as a president. It was the only way, dude.
Yeah.
And they couldn't help themselves because he pissed them off too much. And
I spoke to a CNN producer, and she said that we 100% believe that we are responsible for Trump winning 2016. Because if we did not constantly cover the rallies, people would not know if they existed. If we didn't constantly talk about him in all these different stories, his name brand and his name recognition, I mean, although famous, would not have been as synonymous with presidency.
It's true.
It's because we had this crazy desire, because every time we talk about Trump, our numbers go up, we make money, our advertisers say we hate it, but yet they double down on their advertising.
Oh.
And they started and they pushed this machine.
They did.
As much as they hate him, they created him.
But then he burned the whole fucking thing down on his way out, right? Because now their numbers are all at an all-time low.
Yep.
And he's going on more and more emerging podcasts in alt media, and they're over there they're just left sitting there going, "Oh fuck, we created him." And then he spent 4+ years telling everybody we're the enemy of the public. Once he got in, he was like, "Those are the enemy," and everyone went, "Fuck them! I'm not watching them no more. I don't trust them." And then over and over and over, and he never relents. And now it's too late. They kind of let that out, and I think they had a second chance at this. The mea culpa could have been after 2020, dude.
Yeah.
The biggest, I think, when we look back at this historically, the biggest mistake they're going to have made after 2020 was the indictments.
Yeah.
All you had to do was leave him the fuck alone. He was still going to run, but you had to leave him alone. Don't give him any airtime. You treat him like he's not even existing. Would you have beat him that way? I don't know, but it would have been a hell of a lot better than him getting indicted and going up 8 points every time, like clockwork.
I remember the end of last year, and he was doing his presidential announcement. Mm-hmm. And I think that may be the most low-energy speech I've ever seen Trump do when he gave his actual announcement. Mm-hmm. This was before the announcements. It seemed like before the indictments, he seemed almost like it was getting a little old. He wasn't as excited about it. Maybe even the speeches he had given prior to his official announcement were more animated, more excited. Maybe he deliberately wanted to give off a more calm demeanor, but it wasn't as Trump-like as the other ones. And then you've had the indictments, and he's got this energy that he didn't have at the end of last year.
Correct.
They ignited him. And I think as the indictments go and as the people and as his polling numbers increase and he's seeing the demographic of people that didn't support him all of a sudden support him, it's exciting again.
Yes.
Because he was talking to the same audience last year.
Right.
The same 70 million people that supported him no matter what.
Right.
The main maintenance part is not fun. Any entrepreneur knows that.
It's true.
It's the build part. That gets you off your ass, gets you up in the morning.
All the new people.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't support you. I love you now. Thank you so. Like that's a different audience than the people who've been patting you back for.
And he understands culture.
Yeah.
And seeing the rappers come out and support him, he probably hasn't listed them on their wall. Like, guess who got me today?
Well, and Matt, I got to tell you, the thing that he so a couple things. I'll tell you about the speech. So Donald, it was shortly after that I had reached out to the campaign, and people always wonder how this all came about. How did you start? I forced myself on it.
Yeah.
All they did, they fucked up. They emailed me one time with a phone number. Once you give me your phone number, I'm like, oh, hi. That's how it started, bro. I was like, oh, I got a number. And I called, and I was like gregarious and funny. I was like, hey, how you doing? And if you ever need anything, this is what I do. Oh, yeah, great, okay. And I started cultivating that relationship at the very entry level of the campaign. But in November of last year, he knew, and a lot of people aren't aware of this because it's probably not talked about very much. It will go down as the longest presidential campaign in the history of politics because he declared before anyone else ever had at the same point. It's 2 years. He was pacing himself early.
Yeah.
I think that he was easing himself in, and I think he was smart too. I think he was playing a little possum, which was declare and ease myself into this race. Don't really need to light the world on fire right now. It's right before the holiday season. There's still a lot of fallout from the midterms. Was it successful? Was it not? Yes and no. And I think there was a benefit to sort of like, he also didn't know what he was going to be facing. He had an idea of who he'd be facing, but he wanted to see it kind of come out, right? So there was a method to his madness. I will tell you this, early in the campaign, the meme team is all gas, no break.
Yeah.
So early on, the campaign, they've always loved our passion and our loyalty. But early on, the only one who actually was like, the Dilley meme team is that's what we should be doing, was the lowest level staffers and Trump. Everybody in between was like, they're too aggressive.
Yeah.
It's way too soon to be hitting like this. Oh, I don't think these attacks. What are you doing? The real buy-in was about April when the numbers for DeSantis just were nosediving and the memes were in the millions, and Trump was posting our Truth, on Truth Social, our memes. Because he loves the memes. He loves that content, dude. He loves the music. He loves the videos and the visuals. And so we were, and I didn't ask for approval, and some of the people I talked to were like, I'm still trying to sell you guys to the campaign. And I'm like, oh, don't worry. We'll sell ourselves.
I got this. I got a number.
Because I don't give a, like, you're not paying me. Yeah. So that means you don't get to control me, which means I'm going to do what I do. Yeah. And we're literally all gas, no brakes. So as we keep hammering, what won it over was the polling. They looked and went, we're not supposed to be up 30 right now. Yeah. We're supposed to be up like 8 to 10. DeSantis was dead on arrival when he finally made his shitty announcement on Twitter. It was like, okay, you're already down 30 at that point, or 28. And then you made your announcement, and it was horrendous. And then you face planted all summer long out in Iowa, like a dork. And everybody figured out you wore lifts and you pick your nose a lot. Now you're really fucked. And now, we're not even to the first debate. And then in the backdrop of all of that, as we're destroying Trump's opponent, they're indicting him over and over and literally making him a modern, a working man's hero, right? Relatable character. So, but yeah, it was one of those things where it was a slow buy-in at first, and then once it got going, the results spoke for themselves, and everybody goes, oh yeah, we see the memes and the content and the messages I get, because it's funny, we've been doing this. This is the same thing we've always done. Yeah. The difference now is like it went mainstream. Memes went mainstream, and now I've got hit pieces coming out on me. That should be exciting, right? They want to figure out how we do what we do, and New York Times is doing a piece on me right now. I pissed off the people from Showtime last week because I do the same thing. They're all fucking stupid. They write me emails, and I'm going to screenshot your email. I'm going to crop out your information. And I'm going to put it on Twitter and mock you because it's funny. And they still write me the emails and try to get me to do their shows or do these pieces. And I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing. So this one time I finally pissed off the guy from the New York Times, and now he's actually going to do a full. You
think you'll get a full expose?
I've been told that's exactly what he's doing. Because look, there was a piece in the New York Times the third week of October that was the one I declined to do. And it was about how DeSantis took on the internet and got destroyed. And I was supposed to tell him everything. And that was the one I mocked the shit out of him. And I told him, I'll do the interview the week after Trump's inaugurated. Yeah. He's like, oh, real fucking funny. His name's Ken Benzinger or whatever. And I continue to mock him. So I thought that was the end of it. So the article comes out. He doesn't make one mention of me or my team almost like, well, fine, then I'm going to leave you out of the article and give everybody else credit for what happened to DeSantis, which was fine. I don't care. But then I find out that he's going around and he's interviewing people from my past. People from 10 years ago are like, hey, dude, this guy from the New York Times is like hitting me up. And my ex-wife is like, this asshole from the Times hit me up. I'm like, dude, my ex-wife is a monster Trump supporter, super Republican. Like, she's from Texas. I'm like, you're stupid. Like, it doesn't matter how she feels about me. She's never talking to you, buddy. So then I found out, like this guy is going and they're doing the hit piece. He's trying to and he's trying to do a piece on me, and he probably will, and he'll paint me as some conspiracy theorist or something crazy.
That's so awesome.
Isn't that great?
I mean, being canceled, having a hit piece on you, it's like the ultimate badge of honor.
It is.
I mean, I remember the BBC reached out one time and wanted to talk about something about a video I made, and they wanted my proof of why I can say what I can say. And I gave them some snarky remark and told them they should be able to do their own research. Otherwise, like, what do you have jobs for? Something like this.
Right.
And I was like, and I was sitting there thinking, they're going to do a hit piece. They're going to talk about it. They're going to call me a conspiracy theorist. And I was waiting for it, and they never did. And I'm like, oh, I'm so irrelevant in this world.
Oh, why can't they?
Why can they not do this?
They'll do it eventually. You just keep pissing them off. They're gonna do it. Your hit piece is coming because you let me on your show. You're fucked now, dude.
I'm gonna frame it. I'm gonna give it some lighting to focus in on it, and I'm gonna highlight it so that every single person that comes in, they're like, "What is that?" Like, oh, that's my hit piece.
Right. You know what I'm gonna do with mine, Matt? If they end up doing the article in the New York Times, I have my letter from Trump thanking me and my team for what we did during State of the Union. So it's a written, it's a signed letter from Trump. I think I'm going to frame them next to each other. Like, I'll put my New York Times hit piece, and then I'll have my Trump signed letter, and I'll just put them right next to each other. Because I think you're absolutely right, dude. I mean, it's when you don't rely on the media to build anything for you, it's just funny. Because you're like, everyone that you're going to speak to already hates me, and everyone that likes me already hates you. So this is just...
I don't think the mainstream media, the legacy media, maybe the establishment media, I don't think they understand that their credibility right now is so low that if they go after someone, it just gives the person they go after ultimate street cred.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because obviously we're seeing that with Trump. They keep on going after him, and the more they go after him, the more everyone's like, this is rigged, this is not fair, this doesn't make any sense, we're going to roll with Donnie.
That's a great point.
They're going to do the same with you. They're going to be like, look at Brenden Dilley. He's a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
He is so mean.
Yes.
He makes a lot of people angered.
Right.
And we should cancel him because his humor is not to our
I have a theory on this, though.
Yeah.
I have a theory, dude. I think that if you're a mainstream media guy, I think that part of the reason that they go after certain people, some of it's strategic and they're trying to, I think sometimes, though, dude, we're all creators out here, right? Someone has to write that story. And it's hard to write stories about people that don't elicit a response from you, whether it's positive or negative. It's really hard to go, okay, I'm going to go talk about some benign character that's completely milquetoast in the middle and takes positions I don't like, but really doesn't do it in a very interesting way. How do you attack that? Or how do you even get up in the morning to write that article? But when someone pokes you, right, and they're antagonistic and they really elicit an emotion out of you, whether it's good or bad, it's provocative and it's interesting. And now your job's interesting again. And I think that's what happened also in 2016 with Trump. It's still happening today. They can't get away from him because he's interesting. And it makes a lot of jobs a lot funner to do. And so a guy like me, like, well, do we do a hit piece on this guy? Well, he keeps telling us, fuck you, and he's mocking us in public. And look at all these mistakes he's made, and he's got, his ex-wife or whatever. And like, there's all this, what they think is, but it's all completely normal shit for regular people. But for them, they're going to try to frame it as something interesting. But I think that they enjoy having something that's not gray and lame.
I think you give them too much credit.
I think?
I do. I think that they live in their bubble. If you are a New York Timeser, then you work and live and drink and hang out with other journalists in New York City.
Okay.
And it's a very small area where the New York Times is, right on 8th Avenue. I used to work.
No shit. I've never
one block from
there. So I have no experience with this.
Huge building. They all hang out at the same bars. And they're out there and they're like, hey, did you see this redneck from Georgia? They posted your email, and now they're embarrassed because they're the butt of the joke when they go to the bar.
No shit.
And they think, We need to humble him because I'm the New York Times.
Right.
And this guy's nobody. I'm the New York Times. How dare this redneck from Georgia tell me what's going on?
Especially because his email was him kissing my ass for like begging to come to my house.
And I think they are just so simple-minded.
You think it's that?
They don't see the bigger picture. They know what's around them. And what they know is the bubble of New York City in that 2-block radius where they live. And most of them probably live in New Jersey or in Queens or Brooklyn. They're taking the hour commute into New York on the west side, which is not the awesomest place to be. They're right next to the Port Authority, so they're next to all the buses. They may even take a bus to work. They're not overly happy with their lives. And after all of this, I got to be the butt of the joke from Brenden Dilley meme team in Georgia.
Oh, we got memes ready to go on this fucking guy too, bro. Like, I'm like, okay.
I think it's all pride.
You think it's all pride?
I don't think they're complex or sophisticated enough to have even a deeper agenda.
That's a good point.
I think so. I think you just pissed him off and you embarrassed him in front of his buddies at the bar.
The email is pretty fucking embarrassing because he's begging me to come to my house. He wanted to watch me film my show.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've been watching the show. It's very interesting. You're really you've made a huge impact in this Republican primary. He's trying to do the thing where they butter you up, and I was like,
yeah. So they can get you, and then they
and
can
I'm like, fuck
publicly
off, pal.
destroy you.
Right. But maybe you're right. Maybe me publishing the email, because I mean, it went pretty viral. I mean, got like 1,000 retweets or whatever. I think he was pissed. You very well could be right. I'm not sure.
People just don't.
Sounds like you know him better than I do. Like that you were in that area. I've never been in that area, so.
Yeah, I used to work on 8th Avenue between 36 and 37. I think that's maybe 2 blocks from New York Times.
Gotcha.
So I used to walk by it every day on my plebe walk to the bus. Right? And you would see the people hanging out, and you see, I mean, it's a really cool looking building, and the people there, not one person around that building looks happy, looks content. They're miserable because New York City is a pretty miserable place to work.
Right.
And if you work in that area, it's just constant people. If you take the bus to work every day, you make $250,000 a year, and you take the bus to work an hour, and then you have to get out of the bus, go through the smelly area, and then you have to walk because there's no subway from where your bus stop is to where you work. So every day you got to walk 30 minutes, and you want to feel important, but yet you feel really fucking poor.
Dude, that's a really good point.
You're miserable.
That sounds miserable.
It's horrible. And not only that,
because you're right.
You have to wear your suit.
You're like, I'm a big deal, but I literally have to do this bitch, like the
bitch walk every day.
The bitch walk every day.
And the
women,
women,
you know what I used to call it, Matt? I used to tell you. So my wife, when we were first dating, had a normal corporate job, right? And I was already an entrepreneur, and I wasn't very successful, but I was like staying afloat. And she used to get stuck in traffic in downtown Phoenix. And I used to call it the migration of sadness, bro. Like people going to work every day, that fucking migration of sadness. Just, that's what you're describing New York. It's like
so sad.
It's like a shitty train to a shitty bus to a shitty walk to a shitty job.
And if you are a woman, then you have to wear your heels when you're at meetings and you're at work.
Right.
But you don't wear your heels in the city because they're going to get dirty. It's really uncomfortable.
Right.
So you're walking around with extra pair of shoes. and they're supposed to be important. They have their suits on, they got their expensive things on, and they're walking through a street with extra pair of shoes.
Right.
And this guy from middle of nowhere, Georgia,
is mocking you on the internet.
Is mocking me on the internet.
Right. Good point.
And I think you just rubbed him the wrong way.
You just made me realize, like, dude probably was reading. Like, you don't understand. I tagged this fucking guy, and I sent him DMs that are related. I'm like, here you go, bro. Let me make your job easier. But he's probably reading this shit sitting on the subway, just like wanting to destroy me.
And when I think about that, I'm like, damn, I want to be mad at them.
Right.
At the same time, I kind of feel bad for them.
Pity.
Yes. Because they have nowhere out. Where are they going to go from there?
Good point.
How do you live in Manhattan and transition to living in rural Georgia? That's a really tough transition to make. Well, you're kind of stuck there in this echo chamber of your life. Even the people that want to leave are almost stuck there.
Right.
Their mortgages are so huge that they can't even leave. Where else do you go?
And then you also really can't go anywhere else that you're going to get that kind of income.
Exactly.
Because no one else will pay you $300,000 to write shitty
articles.
It's
really hard to go backwards in income.
Right.
Because you've built up your expenses.
Right. Your credit, your cars, your lifestyle.
Exactly.
The vacations. It's a good point. It is. It's a rat race that traps them. And then it's weird, too, because, like, it doesn't allow you ideologically to entertain other ideas.
No.
So you're stuck. Because in order to sustain the life you have, you can't even allow those alternative ideas to take hold inside of you, or you risk losing everything.
Correct.
Right? You go, hey, you know what? I listen to this Trump guy, and he actually started making sense. What'd you say? Like, shit.
Yeah, if your reputation is built on being the anti-Trumper,
right,
and you are in the bubble of a New York City or a San Francisco or one of these really liberal extremist areas,
right,
you can't go back. Even if you want to change your mind, you're stuck because it would shatter everything around you. It would change your credibility of how people perceive you.
Right.
And that's a really shitty thing to be a part of. To know that you're stuck and that you don't even believe it anymore.
Right.
But you're forced to play the role. How do you get them back? How do you save those people?
Okay, so we know it's something that it can be done.
Yes,
it always
it's
can
possible.
be done. So the only thing I can think of, and Donald Trump did it with China, right? Like one of the biggest things about negotiating with China is face is very important culturally.
Yes.
Allowing to save face.
Yes.
So I can take my loss, but I have to take it a certain kind of way so that I don't lose all of my credibility or whatever. And so I honestly think, Matt, when you asked me that question, that the first thing that comes to my mind is, like, I may have mocked him, but I was playful. I wasn't hateful. I was playful about it, right? Like, even my reply to him, I said, yeah, I'd love to have you to the house any day the week after Trump's next inauguration. He wrote me back and was like, ha, like, whatever. I think it's humor. I think it's, we have to get the country back to the point that there's levity. And I think it's hard to have levity without humor. I think some of the things that we've lost culturally that did allow us to get past political differences, it's music, it's humor, right? If you're in a room full of people, left and right, and you're all laughing at the same thing, you've just found commonality, or you're all rocking out to the same music. You just found commonality. It's like okay, well, I think about problem solving different than you, but we both agree this is a great moment. I think that you have to culturally take back the country, and I think the path back for some of these people is to, first we have to destroy the misrepresentation of both Trump and MAGA. Redneck from Georgia. Well, you saw my pictures I've been trying to post on. There's a reason for that. I wear a suit. It's a custom fucking suit. It's a very expensive suit, right? When I go out, I go out in a certain kind of way. I conduct myself a certain kind of way. And the reason is because I want to destroy that perception of what it means. It doesn't mean that MAGA can't be a blue-collar worker wearing a T-shirt and a red hat, but it also means it's not only that. And I think that's the same thing with Donald Trump. He's obviously not a racist. I think a lot of people have abandoned that line of arguing by now. I think it's still there sometimes, but really, it's hard to argue against his policies and what it's done, especially the Fresh Start initiative that he did with the prison reform.
Anytime I put up any sort of
First Step Act, that's what it was,
or video or anything about Trump,
right?
The first comment I always get is, Trump hates people like you. I get it all the time.
Can I ask you a question though? Yeah. Like, so what platform? Like, just give me an example where
every platform. It doesn't even matter, except Twitter. But Twitter also only shows your content to people that kind of agree with you. Right. Yeah. But if I go on to Instagram or TikTok, which does, for their credit, they do a better job of showing your content to a more diverse audience.
But, and here's the big challenge. This is the hardest part about having deriving any kind of conclusion from the internet. Here's the challenge. You're in a world that is, your opposition is commenting on your shit.
Yes.
There's entire bot farms in China this is all they're deployed to do, right? That's one of the most challenging things about the internet is, am I interacting with people who have legitimate concerns about him being racist, or is it some cocksucker sitting in a, you know what I mean, in a fucking place out in Ukraine, because that's where they love to run the bot farms too. Same thing. Eastern Europe, tons of bot farms out there you can be bought. So that's a real challenge, I think, I think that the only real way that we can get a better feel for what's going on with Trump in perception of him is on the street. That's why I brought it up. Like, I feel safe wearing a MAGA hat now, even in Atlanta. And I do. My signed Trump hats, no issue. No one says shit. To me, that feels like a more accurate representation of where people sit than the internet, simply because we already know how they've been, psyoping the public using perception, AI. That's the only thing I draw. I have a hard time drawing conclusions from anything internet based anymore. And I run a business on the internet, and I still am cautious because I'm like,
because I've spoken to actually a couple people recently, and they said I was a lifelong Democrat, but seeing what's going on in the world over the last 3 years, I'm realizing, and as I get older and as I have kids, I'm realizing that I'm more conservative. But I will never vote for Trump.
Right.
Because Trump doesn't respect women.
Right.
And he's a racist.
Right.
Those are the two narratives that for people who are having a hardest time getting over. These are the two narratives that he has to figure out how to win, I believe.
Well, he is, to his credit,
he's trying.
Well, I mean, when you've doubled your support among the black community already, you've added 15% on your support with Hispanics. The demographic you just mentioned, that's really where it screwed him in 2020, and they weren't banking on it. And the Democrats screwed this up royally with the crime. Suburban white women.
Yeah.
He's killing it. He's at 48. Dude, he couldn't break like 35 in 2020. But now they're like, no one's going to stop the criminality but Trump. Even hardcore Democrat women know this. They look and go, all of the other things I have that I might be concerned about, he's the only one that's actually going to make it where I can walk to work again safely. And I think that's part of this. Is I think we're going to get past a lot of the single voter issues. And I think we're going to get to a point, and certainly another year of pain under Biden. By the time the election rolls around, I think the pain is going to be so immense. I don't necessarily know that these people will be voting for Trump because they love him as much as they can't deal with any more suffering under the Democrat Party. I think this is going to be a much more simplified election from that perspective. And it's a very interesting election because it isn't, there is no middle ground on it. It's either you're benefiting from the corruption from the Biden administration, you're making a lot of money and you're at the very top, or you're really getting stomped and you're experiencing things that you never thought you'd experience, violence in areas you never thought there would be violence. And I think that's what it's going to boil down to. And I think all President Trump has got to do, especially going into the closing month, of the election, when he stays policy high ground those last 3-4 months, Agenda 47 is exciting to anybody. All it's going to take is getting those people to go, set aside the personality of the man. Can you just look at this and just tell me which of these do any of those look interesting to you? You're going to have a very hard time having people give you negative feedback on Agenda 47. It's ambitious. It's forward thinking. I would dare call it progressive as a thinker and as an American. It's a way forward looking agenda. And I think that's the sales pitch eventually, is get away from the cult of personality, focus on and that's what we've been doing. The meme team's been memeing Agenda 47 videos for this very reason. It's like, the guy's going to deliver this for you. And I think that's attractive. And I think also he's not on Twitter, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's, if you want to hear from him, you can be on True Social, but if you don't want to hear from him, you really aren't going to hear from him. So I think that's actually not necessarily a bad thing. I think
you can't blame the mean tweets anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I think, the one thing I'm concerned about is this push towards World War III.
Yeah.
And what we know is that historically, we don't change presidents during active wartime.
Right.
It feels like we're leading up into an active war, specifically so that we don't change any leadership.
You know what's funny is 4 years ago, I would have told you, I was like, yeah, it's a little out there for both of us. You want to know the moment that I realized COVID was like, oh my God, they're doing this thing? It was when they canceled March Madness, bro.
Yeah.
Because as a businessman, I know how much that generates just total. And when they canceled March Madness, I went, oh, fuck, they're going full tilt. They're going to actually do this.
They have no choice.
I couldn't believe it. Like, that was the moment COVID didn't become real to me about people dying or sick. That wasn't the shit that got me. It was when they canceled March Madness, I went, they are not going to let him win.
Yeah.
And this is how they're going to do it. Because that was such a moment. Like, anytime I look at an opposing group that's willing to lop off its own arm to like get across the finish line ahead of you, you got to take that group seriously.
Yes.
That was where I was like, it ain't even about money anymore.
No.
And I'm like, you just axed billions of dollars. That wasn't necessarily trickling down to the rest of us. That's like some huge fucking advertising money that some cocksucker in corporate makes an extra $2 or $3 million bonus on. And they just went, and you're not getting and so
all made sacrifices for their own greater good.
Bro, that was when I realized there's nothing they won't do to keep him out. So the World War III thing, I think, there's going to be an election. There's not going to be an election. Everything's on the table with these people.
Yes.
100%. We are in total agreement. Everything is on the table. I think in order to get into a World War III scenario where we actually are getting involved, I don't know if you can escalate it fast enough inside of 12 months to get the United States. I think there's a lot of lead into that. I don't know that fiscally we're even in a position to mount what could look like a legitimate war effort.
I think all it takes is one domestic terror attack, and we're in full-blown war.
That's a good point, too.
That's all it is. And it doesn't even matter who does it. It just needs to occur.
It's probably true. Probably true.
Think of 9/11. One day changes trajectory of the next 20 years.
It's a great point. Maybe I'm looking at more from a actual. I don't know that they can mount World War III from the United States perspective. I don't know that we have the ability to get involved. Our troop numbers are horrendous right now. Recruiting is down, way down.
Can you imagine what would happen if they started forcing Gen Z drafting Gen Z?
Bro, you want to watch Trump win by 50? Start drafting. Man, I hope it doesn't come to that.
Of course not. No one wants to be at war. No, let's be real. Nobody
and that's the thing. That's what's really weird about this too. Is remember, like, to get into a situation like that, dude. You still okay? So if you're going to actually do a proper World War III, not the pseudo war shit we've been doing, requires a declaration of war.
I mean, we haven't declared war since World War II, but yet we're in constant war.
Right, but we've always had these proxy bullshit wars. And so this is where, like, if he starts another bullshit war, like in Afghanistan, it's not going to stop Trump or the election. If you're going to get the World War III where we have the full, profound, oh my God, you're going to have to get a Republican Congress to co-sign that shit.
It's not impossible.
No, and honestly,
war is very profitable for an extreme amount of people.
Full transparency, I don't know what percent needs to approve on that subject, like to get the kit passed. I don't know what it looks like. I'm just throwing out there. What I'm saying is, I think you have to start building that narrative way in advance to get to a conflict that big.
I feel like the last 2 months have been that buildup.
Really?
I mean, open up your news right now, and the first 10 articles will be Israel, Hamas, Israel, Hamas, Israel, Hamas. Yeah. There is no other topic that's been trending as long and as big as this.
Since what, October 7th or 6th or 10th?
It feels like a year.
It's been a month.
But yet, it's still, every other topic, after a week or two, fizzles and disappears. They try to force feed Ukraine on us. And even that kind of just went away.
It's gone.
And even when it was popular, people weren't all that interested. Hang the Ukraine flag.
Do you think the Israel thing is more popular than the Ukraine thing?
I
don't think it is. I think it's the same level of we don't fucking care.
I think of most Americans, they don't want to be involved in war at all.
Right.
Between the Russia-Ukraine conflict and Israel-Palestine conflict, there's no U.S. money actually involved in in Russia and Ukraine, right? Like, Russians don't have a huge interest in our economy directly.
Well, other than trying to stop it, because if Trump gets back in, they're bankrupt.
Yeah, indirectly they are, but they're not actively involved in politics and in all these different facets of American life. Not like how integrated we are with Israel.
Right.
Israel is very deeply integrated into American life. In all
politics
aspects.
too. Yes.
Politics, business, corporation, sports, music, everything.
Yes.
So I think we are forced to care about that more. We have no choice because the people that are in charge of our society care about it more.
Right. They have a vested interest, a bigger vested interest. I agree with that. But again, we're trying to get into if we're getting to a World War III scenario where they suspend elections.
I don't even know if they have to suspend elections. People just, if we're an active war, American people, even if there was an election, people don't elect a new person because you don't disrupt what's currently going on.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess we're making.
I think historically that's the way it is.
It is, but we're making a lot of assumptions because I don't think historically we've never had anybody like Joe.
Correct.
Like to where your normal person looks and goes, that guy is not fucking present. So I think we do have some outliers we have some definitely I think we can use historical reference, but we also have a lot of abnormalities that in this current climate that really kind of make it where you can't gauge it necessarily. Like I'm no fan of FDR, but from a competency standpoint versus Joe Biden, it's not close, right? And so you look at that and you go, okay, 3 terms, and but it's not that. That guy's like everyone universally agrees he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And not only that, he's probably lost it, like dementia level. He's on a whole nother level. Could they do it? Yeah. I guess my approach, man, and my attitude about it is I don't deploy too much thought into it because it's one of those things that's so big. As far as I can tell, I either don't have the ability to affect any kind of change that would stop it, or if I was going to, it's just focused on the task at hand in almost, it's using the trick that we talked about with Trump is I'm not going to allocate energy to this bullshit. Meaning I'm not going to give your war effort raising, because the more attention we give into it, the more you're actually playing right into what they want, which is discussing it, debating it. Oh, should we get involved? And the more I think you go, I don't fucking care, it's not America, the more I think it kind of takes away power from them because they go, we can't get enough people to buy into this hysteria. And maybe it results in some kind of a terror attack or not. But for me, I look at that and I go, okay, it's outside of what I'm able to impact in just fundamentally, philosophically even. I just focus on what I know where I can affect change continuously, and I keep hammering that. And things that are outside of that, I don't really meander into because I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with it anyway? Right? It's like, it's interesting, but it's also something where it's like one of those, I'll deal with it when I'll cross the bridge when it gets here. If that happens, then I'll deal with it. Until then.
That's what they said about Trump in 2016.
Right.
Yeah, we'll deal with it when it gets here.
We'll deal with it when it gets here. Then, oh, shit, he's here.
Damn, he's here. Yeah, Orange man bad.
I guess you hope, I live in a rural part of Georgia, up north, and you just look and you go, okay, I know my neighbors. I feel pretty confident in my community. I feel like we're not really a very interesting place to attack if you were going to target it. We'll fucking deal with the fallout, man. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. Let's just hope they don't do it. The other thing is, too, man, I think there's a certain level of madness. I think it goes beyond politics. When we start talking about like World War III, you're talking about nuclear war. You're talking about a lot of fucking death, and you can't just get America to co-sign it. You got to get other major nations to go, fuck it, let's lose a few 100 million people. And I think that's a really hard buy-in. I think there's a lot of saber rattling, but I don't know that and the evidence doesn't suggest that that is really something that a lot of nations are keen on doing.
I don't think World War III is a physical war.
You think
I don't think you'll see a lot of death.
Technologies and.
Because we are in a digital age, not an analog age.
Right.
Death and killing of mass amounts of people is very analog.
Yeah.
It's very messy. It's very expensive. It's difficult to clean up. Like, it doesn't show well.
Well, and it destroys a lot of, like, really the spoils of war get destroyed in the process of gaining them, right?
Correct. There's very little to gain from a I'm playing God perspective,
right,
when you kill, right? Before, back in the day, if you kill mass amounts of people, it gives you opportunity to take over more land. Yep. It made sense in that weird way. These days, it doesn't make sense. It's messier than it is clean.
Agreed.
So I don't think World War III will be killing 10 million people.
You think it's killing infrastructure?
I think it is being able to controlling the data and how people move and transact. Who controls the monetary system?
Hold on, but by that definition, dude, we could be very well in World War III already.
I definitely think
so. What you just said is we're in war already.
Yes,
and I don't necessarily disagree with you. I agree with that.
I think seeing all the cyber attacks, all the weird infrastructure issues we see all over the world.
But wouldn't that make your terrorist argument then analog, though?
Well, Okay, if you are an influencer,
yes,
and you want to show the world how rich and awesome your life is,
right,
you got to go rent a Lamborghini and you got to show people.
You got to rent the Lamborghini.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't just say I have a Lamborghini.
Yeah,
you
gotta
have
show
to have proof of concept saying, look, my Lamborghini,
So you think
I'm rich.
You think you use that as essentially a jump off point?
Correct. Yeah. You need the
Maybe.
pictures. I mean, if you're going to talk about potential reasons for war between Israel and Palestine, why film people and have people come in on paragliders?
Right.
It's for that part was 100% for show.
The optics.
Yeah. Of people.
I've always felt that we were already in conflict after COVID, to be honest with you. I felt that the release of COVID was an act of war, a global war. And that was my opinion of it back then, was this is a man-made bioweapon released upon the planet, which a bioweapon is right there neck and neck. You know, it's a mass casualty device.
Yeah.
It's a nuke for the planet.
Just a little bit less messy.
Right. But it felt like, and given the lack of conversation that even a lot of world leaders will even have about China and their responsibility with that, makes me wonder if we aren't in some kind of almost a Cold World War, as you were just mentioning, digitally.
Yeah.
Because you're right. There's a lot of indications of it. Certainly with the censorship and a lot of the things that are going on. It feels like we're winning that, though. If that's the case, then I feel that we are winning that because there are significant, I think, progress. People are becoming more bold again. They're finding their voices again, and they've got some places that they can actually go to and express that. So,
because I've been following a lot of the world leader elections in other countries.
Yeah, okay.
And if you look at what happened to Trump, right, and how that transpired, extremely similar stories happened in Brazil.
Yeah,
huge country.
Yep.
Extremely similar thing happened in India, in South Africa, in Pakistan.
Yep.
All over the world, people are experiencing the same exact story, which is the people, the president or the leader or the prime minister that the people choose that may have more conservative values, that want to
nationalism,
that want to be against kind of a one world order type of people.
Right.
Those people are all being ousted, brought out, charged, becoming criminals, 100%. Being forbidden or prevented from running again.
Well, 24 is interesting for that reason. Is it's not just the United States presidential election. There are huge, massive elections around the globe happening that are going to coincide with what we're doing. You're absolutely right. It's an interesting time.
It is an interesting time. I would love for you to come back.
Absolutely.
And do it again. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
I think this is really cool.
I appreciate it. This is a wonderful conversation, dude. I appreciate being here with you, dude. Well, definitely, I'll be coming back, Matt. 100%.
And we will leave the Dilley meme team and Brenden Dilley and everything in the description. Bro, I really appreciate you came by. It's so close to here, relatively speaking.
Yeah, it's easy.
And hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely. 100%, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everybody.